What's happening, sports fans? Happy Wild Card Saturday. The NFL playoffs are here. We all give us something to cheer about. If you're like me and happy about this, if you could do us a favor and slide your finger over to the thumbs up button, it is sincerely appreciated. Help spread us around YouTube. And what's not to be happy about today? We got NFL back-to-back days. We got playoffs. We got the NBA steadily rolling by from a DFS perspective. If you're not happy today, I want you guys to go back in your mind about 9 months ago when we had no sports to watch and we got everything rolling right now.
We even got LOL back, so we got it all going right now.
That does nothing for me. I know we get somebody who comments every day, when are you guys going to do esports? I know you dabble in there. I got plenty of things I'm nerdy on. That is just not one of them.
Fair enough.
All right, guys. So let's talk about the NBA DFS slate tonight. Let's talk about how we can get after it and try to win some money. Hopefully everybody was successful last night. NBA DFS is funny. Like, a lot of my success last night came from being too stubborn to pivot off of Tyler Halliburton. I never expected him to be that good. Like, you got to just enjoy when you get a little bit lucky, because there are so many days where me, you, and every one of you guys listening gets unfortunate bad luck. So when one of your guys balls and because you're too stubborn to take him out, just appreciate it, because there's a lot of days we get pooped on in this game.
No doubt about it, man.
All right, guys. As far as current 5-pack promotions go, if you buy the NBA package today, do the same thing as yesterday. I'll clue you in on the NFL playoffs. We're going to do write-ups for all the slates. We got the write-up out for today. We're going to have one for tomorrow as well. So you buy the NBA package today, which is done through the website. The link is below, and you get the NFL playoffs for free.
Can't beat it.
Otherwise, guys, day passes are up. Subscribe to the station if you're new to it. We're going to continue with the new format. Let's roll into my cash game play of the day. And that is going to be a guy that usually you are on more than I am, and that is DeMar DeRozan of the San Antonio Spurs. So I got him as a cash lock today. One, early day projections have him as one of the chalkier plays on the entire slate. Good points for him. Minnesota defense atrocious. Cat may come back today, which is good for the Minnesota offense, could keep this game more relevant, but it certainly isn't anything that's going to help the defense for the Minnesota Timberwolves, which is going to be lackluster at best throughout the season. DeMar DeRozan's just coming off murderer's row as far as rough matchups, having to go up against the Clippers, the Lakers, Utah. The Spurs overall played well in these games, winning a couple of good games against the LA teams. The difference was, like, he got there because he's still a pretty good player, but this is a crush spot. If you look at DeMar DeRozan's first 2 games of the year against weaker opponents, he had baller games. This is the kind of upside that he has today against Minnesota. So this could be a spot. I know one of the things you talked about, this could be kind of a letdown spot for San Antonio, just coming off these big games against the LA teams. But I think I could see him letting down defensively. Offensively, they're still going to put the ball in the basket because Minnesota is terrible defensively. My biggest worry about this game, and if there was a reason to get off of a chalky DeRozan, for me would just be the fact that these teams play tomorrow. And maybe one of these teams hits their outside shots and the other one doesn't, and the game gets lopsided and they save a veteran player for like DeRozan tomorrow. But when you look at back-to-backs, coaches will take the game in hand. They will take this game and try to win it unless it's a major discrepancy. And we're both going to give Minnesota just a little bit of credit today, especially if Cat plays it. They'll keep this game semi-competitive.
Yeah, the fact that this could be a letdown spot for the Spurs helps Minnesota in that regard, which in turn helps DeRozan, because you're right. Minnesota's defense we're not afraid of. You know I'm a huge DeRozan fan just in general, so it doesn't take much twisting my arm here. I'm about it.
Other thing about DeRozan, if you guys notice, he's actually made some three-pointers this year. I know that's crazy, but the guy's actually been making threes on a semi-regular basis.
He's got more threes made this year than he did all of last year, I'm pretty sure.
Insane. Him and LaMarcus Aldridge must have spent the winter in the gym, like working on their three-point craft.
For sure.
All right, guys, so your top GPP play of the day. So I know we like to quote Missy Elliott on here a little bit, but you put your game down, flip it, and reverse it. Today I'm talking about your guy, DeMar DeRozan, but you want to talk about my guy, Harrison Barnes, who has nothing but a very constant and replicable game log, which is what I dig about him.
Yeah, was on his way to big-time GPP value last night. Lost run because of the blowout. Like him a lot in this spot in a game that we both have a lot of interest in. I think that you mentioned there are question marks surrounding the Kings. We don't know about Fox. Bagley's not playing huge minutes. Guy you can just lock in and know he's going to play big minutes and be productive on a daily basis is Harrison Barnes. Again, I'm not really a Barnes fan. I think he's, not a spectacular DFS. Well, he's not a spectacular DFS player, but he's playing very well this year. I mean, his game log is littered with 30 pluses. I think he's only got one game below that all season. He's still only 6,400. I say this a lot. I've been trying not to say it too much now, but he is a cog in the machine.
Only correction I'll make on there, I think you have to adjust the 30 and below to 29 and below because I think he has a 29 and a half in there. So and he has one bad game in the teens. And I think it's like 29 and a half is where he doesn't go. So basically 30 if you want to round it up. You know I'm a big Barnes guy. For his consistency, right? Like he ain't the sexiest play. I talk about this all the time. Barnes, you'll never watch a Kings game and be like, man, this guy's impressive. Like you can watch Buddy Hield get hot. You can watch Marvin Bagley play really, really well. De'Aaron Fox is a stud. This Halliburton kid we both adore. But you want to know what? Barnes never jumps off your screen. And at the end of the day, you're like, how did he roll into 36 points? He didn't do anything. I don't think he shot it. I don't think he got a rebound. And I don't think he blocked a shot. But he just quietly goes about his business under the radar, giving you a solid stat line every single day. And I think the key thing here is we love this game. For upside, this game is hard to match right now because Sacramento is all offense and no defense. And Barnes does those things at the position they're not as deep. Like they even have guys like Whiteside who never plays anymore, but they have big men that they can run a little different rotations with, especially if you include Bielitsa's in the fours. But Barnes is like that small forward, and they don't have as many of that guy.
For sure.
All right, next up, Devonte Graham. So I'm hoping he goes a little under the radar today. Some of the game log watchers might be on him. This is a game that also has a little bit of potential. But Graham got off to a really, really slow start this season. Maybe he was just off. Maybe he didn't like the drafting of LaMelo Ball, thinking he might lose his job. For whatever reason it might be, he was slow. But over the past two games, we've seen him with monster minutes and monster DFS scores. And what I like is a back pocket thing right here. He still shot the ball like ass both of those days. So there's actually room for growth right here. We love to target Atlanta. And I guess my gut feeling is, because I know we talked about him the other day and so did everybody, I still think the masses are going to appeal more to LaMelo Ball than they are Devonte Graham.
I agree with that. I think he's just the sexier name, the sexier play right now. Graham's just solid, 5,600, playing massive minutes, playing bigger minutes than Ball. I'm a little bit torn on, where people are going to go, only because the price discrepancy is now pretty big. Ball's like $1,000 more. So I do think that Graham gets love because of that. I think that Ball gets love because he's the sexier name. I think it's very likely that this is a spot Graham outscores Ball. So I like Graham a lot here. Again, playing huge minutes in a game that, we hope is competitive. I worry a little bit about Charlotte on a back-to-back, but Atlanta has not looked great recently. And, Graham is just very minimal risk at this price point right now.
Especially because what you see on back-to-backs all the time is Charlotte gets off hot against a bad Atlanta defense. And it should at least give him a floor, because I could definitely see Charlotte like wilting in the second half, specifically in the third quarter, Atlanta getting it together and having a real big third quarter. But I still think Graham has a solid floor right there. And if this game is competitive for four quarters, there is massive upside right here. Charlotte is one of these teams that has playoff aspirations. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to get there, but it would mean a lot to them to meander into one of the lower seeds in the East. So they can't just give up on winnable games like this. So I don't think they're prepping for the rest of the year because they're not the Lakers. They can't deal with regular season losses and know that they're just going to coast in the playoffs. They're a team that is like fighting for the 7th and 8th seed.
No doubt about it.
All right. So are the Hawks, which is good for both sides of it right here.
Yep.
All right. Next up, let's move over to the long shot plays of the day. And I'm going to talk about another guy. Weird how I'm taking your guys today. You're a Derrick Jones Jr. fan. And yeah. I have to say, like, his high sky dunking and his tenacious defense, it's hard not to be a fan of what he brings to the game without kind of that sexy offensive game that people appeal to. I love his dunks. He dunks it like nobody, but he also plays really, really good defenses, which is why he has spots on NBA rosters. So he can hit occasional threes. Not something he's going to do a ton of, but he can do it. He can also get blocks and steals. I think this game has the potential for one of those games where he could get 10-plus points from blocks and steals alone, throw in 4 steals and 2 blocks. This game's all pace, no defense. He's the one guy out there playing defense, I guess is the way to put it. He's just not very consistent because they have other forwards in Robert Covington and Carmelo Anthony. Now Rodney Hood Jr. is back. This could eat into him potentially. But this is a spot like when he dropped 33 against Golden State the other day with the pace and just the overall game flow of this one. I think he has potential upside. I couldn't roster him in a cash game build. I just couldn't do it. I think you have other more replicable, cheaper guys you can use today. We also don't have studs that like jump off the page to me today as must roster, so I don't know how much you need it. But there's real potential in a long shot type of mode right here in a game that both appeals to us from an overall DFS perspective.
The other thing that he gives us, which, is important on every slate now, is that late flexibility, right? So all of a sudden you get someone out for Sacramento and or Portland, he becomes a better play. Maybe someone from Sacramento becomes a better play that's really cheap. All of a sudden, De'Aaron Fox is out and you can pivot to Corey Joseph. He gives you that flexibility, and at the end of the day, he's a solid play in this spot. I agree with you. The upside's there in a game a game environment, which we think should be pretty fast paced, close, two even-ish teams. Portland's the better team, but it's in Sacramento, so a lot to like here.
So you mentioned the late game flexibility. I love that point because we've been addressing it a lot in the members only videos lately, how important it is, especially in the days of COVID and everything like that, to have that. Like we both assume De'Aaron Fox is playing today unless somebody tells us otherwise, but a point you mentioned, what if he just wakes up sore today? And then all of a sudden, half the other games are started already and they're like, Fox is out today. Well, Tyrese Halliburton then becomes like the must play of must plays. This kid can ball. Ran with him last night just because I was too stubborn to get off of him. Would do it 100 beat. Like Halliburton would be a must play to me in all formats if De'Aaron Fox was out. Well, you might need some pivots you need to make, and this is that kind of thing that helps you.
Yeah, I mean, last night, I didn't even mention this to you, but kind of the same thing for me. I was stubborn. I ended up changing one of my lines to some Lakers, when we got the news AD was out. But in my top line, I had Van Vliet, Halliburton, and Boucher left. And I was like tinkering with it. I was like, man, maybe I should get Harrell in here. Like, I don't know if I want Halliburton anymore. Again, I had told you I didn't even see the news about Len. So Boucher I liked, but he wasn't like a lock for me. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to mess with it because this is what I liked going in. Halliburton will still see run. And obviously, like those three guys were huge. So, sometimes don't make changes if you like what you got.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, last time up, last long shot of the day, Matt's long shot of the day. So it's JaVale McGee. This is a guy that most of y'all know who he is from his time with Golden State and the Lakers, veteran, been in the league for a long time. While maybe he's not considered a great NBA player, one of the things he does is when he is given the ability to play for an extended minutes because of his size, the block shots, the rebounds, these things all come, the putbacks. We both think this is a terrible spot for your Cleveland Cavaliers playing my Milwaukee Bucks tonight. The Bucks are coming off of a loss last night. They let Utah shoot the lights out on them. So you're going to get a pissed off Bucks team today. You're going to get Giannis going to the rack with reckless abandon. I think your Cavaliers are missing their top 83 players at this point potentially. So we could see a situation where McGee plays as many minutes as Drummond, maybe more if the Bucks get going early.
This is a spot where, like, man, we talk about these back-to-backs. Like, if the team that played last night gets hot early, like, good night, Cleveland, RIP, thoughts and prayers, they're done. They're not coming back on Milwaukee here. And that's a situation where you could have McGee, again, play big minutes like you mentioned. And the thing about him, and we talk about guys like this all the time, he walks into DFS points because of his size, so he doesn't need big minutes. If he happens to get big minutes, that's where the upside happens. It's a lot like Rondo in a way, where like these guys get DFS points when they're on the floor. You just never know when the big minutes are going to come. This is a good spot for McGee to see good minutes here. I think as filler pieces, you can look at, a bunch of the backup Cavs, except they're all not very good. And McGee, like you said, is not a good NBA player, but he is a good DFS player.
He does put up points in a hurry. And I think that's a good way to assess back-to-backs and also good teams coming off wins or losses. If the Bucks had beaten the Jazz last night, I don't think I would like Milwaukee quite as much today. Maybe rest on their laurels a little bit, big win against a good team. But instead, they played a terrible fourth quarter. Utah was on fire from the get-go. So I think they get it together today. They stomp on a Cavs team that's missing most of their best players and get rolling early. And then, Drummond maybe only plays 22 minutes today.
Sexton didn't go through shoot around. When you take the Cavs, I like the young talent that they have. But one thing that they do not have is depth. So when you take away two of their top three players, Garland, Sexton, already without Kevin Love, then all of a sudden they have one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NBA, because their best players aren't like top players in the league, but the difference between them and our bench players is massive.
And so also this puts the Cavaliers in an even worse point because now they don't have any three-point shooting. And that's the thing that Milwaukee is weakest against, right? Assuming Sexton is out, like who's out there gunning threes? Like they don't even have Dante Exum anymore. Like where's the three-point shooting coming from? Chetty and Chetty alone? Like that's a rough. They pound the paint really well, which is the one place that Drummond, can get his. But that's what Milwaukee defends well. They do not defend the three-point line well, and now all your three-point shooters are out.
It's hard to envision Milwaukee letting Drummond beat them here.
Yeah, exactly. I think Giannis has like a 28 DK point first quarter, and they're up by 15 at the end of the first quarter, would just be my prediction on this one.
I don't disagree with that at all.
So they just, Cleveland, I feel bad for your Cavs right now. They're just missing all their best players. That's a rough situation for anybody.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys, good luck today. Enjoy your NFL playoffs. Hard not to be happy about that. Then we got NBA at night. We got the NFL back tomorrow and NBA tomorrow. Like, it's just so nice to have all these sports around again. And I know, like, you're probably just getting, not specifically for baseball because your Cleveland Indians just traded all your best players, but, like, to even think about baseball coming in like 2 months, right?
Yeah, I can't believe you had to go there, but you actually meant it in a good way. So, yeah, you're right. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about Ohio State on Monday. I'm definitely excited, and this is a little bit different. You have to change it year by year. I'm much more excited for DFS, baseball than I am for the Indians, which is what it is. You know how that goes being a Brewers fan.
When you're a fan of a small market team, like, it's not crazy to think the Brewers got worse, and then like in 3 years they had to trade Christian Yelich,
right?
Just for like to like rebuild with a whole bunch of prospects, and that's the situation you guys have been in. You've been competitive for many, many years now, but the list of talent that you guys have traded off over the last couple of years is deep. And I don't know if you saw this, but the Cleveland Indians' current roster is getting paid less than Albert Pujols right now.
Jeez, and I did see something like their 2018 rotation was, Kluber, Bauer, Clevenger, Carrasco, won like I don't even know the exact number of games, but now none of them are there. It's impressive that they've stayed competitive. I will say though, we don't talk about this often. Isn't it just crazy when you think about it? In 2021, in professional baseball, some teams have like a ton more money to spend than others. Like, it just really makes no sense. I know. I mean, it is what it is, but when this stuff happens to your team, you feel it.
Yeah, I mean, you watch the way the Dodgers and the Yankees spend money, and then like, I'm a Brewers guy, you're an Indians guy. Like, we don't have that. We're not given that. Now, in fairness, up until last year, the Dodgers hadn't won a World Series in decades. The Yankees only have one over the past 2 decades. So it doesn't necessarily equal World Series championships, which is a lot different. Like, if you didn't have that in basketball, and like one team could just play LeBron James, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Giannis Antetokounmpo, you could all just come here and we could pay you all the money in the world. It'd be weird.
It's not all about winning World Series, though, at least for me. Like, there's something to be said for, like, man, being a Yankees fan is you're competitive every year. Like, we talk about our teams going for it. Like, yeah, it probably loses a little bit of luster because your team's spending money all over, but it must be nice being a fan of a team that just signs whoever they want. I'll say that.
For sure. It gives you something to root for. And that's where baseball is different than basketball. Basketball, you tune in, you watch the game from start to end more than anything. Baseball is like, if you're a Brewers fan, Indians fan, Padres fan, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. You throw it on in the background, you go up on your night, you got 162 of these, and unless it's like, a rivalry game or something like that, like, it's just on in the background for 200 straight days.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
So, all right, guys, enjoy the playoffs today. Enjoy your NBA today. Day passes are up and all those good things. Have a wonderful Saturday. And actually, I don't think we will see you tomorrow because the NFL video is already out, and we don't cover NBA on Sundays until the NFL ends.
No, we don't. Thanks, guys.
Peace out, guys.